Axe or Ask, the African-American Guide to Better English. Garrard McClendon, welcome to Chicago Tonight.
Phil, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Not at all. Good to have you here. First of all, the title, Axe or Ask. Why did you come up with this title?
I've been teaching, Phil, for about 18 years, and we are in a state of emergency. The African-American community is suffering from low expectations. 64% of African-American fourth graders are considered functionally illiterate. African-Americans suffer the most from social promotion, and we score 200 points lower than white and Asian students on the SATs. Axe or Ask, the African-American Guide to Better English is basically a book that was written to raise the expectations.
And as I read your book this afternoon, and one of the points that you make is that you're not saying that what's called black English should never be used.
Black English is beautiful, Phil. It's a wonderful dialect. There are things that you can say in Black English that you cannot say in other dialects. All I'm asking is that African Americans be able to code switch.
What does that mean, code switch?
It means moving in and out of a situation to basically protect yourself, somewhat like a chameleon. A chameleon can change color to become a predator or to not become prey. And the black community basically suffers from economic, employment, and educational exploitation because we do not have adequate facility with the language.
One of the points that you make is that language is not, if you go to an interview, for example, there's a particular way you dress that you wouldn't dress if you were just sort of relaxing at home.
That's right.
And you make a comparison to language is the same thing. There's some language that you would employ in an interview context that you wouldn't necessarily use when you're just hanging around with friends. So what you're saying is that, what, you want African Americans to have the ability and the skills to switch back and forth?
That's right. It's just like I'm on Chicago Tonight. I didn't wear pajamas to this interview. I wore a business suit. There's a time and a place for everything, Phil, and that's what I'm saying. We don't use baseball rules in a basketball game. In football, you can run with the ball. In basketball, you must dribble. So with the English language, all I'm asking is that black people code switch. It's not that difficult.
Well, let's. You have a glossary in your book of different terms, and we selected a few.
Yes.
First, the one that's in the title, Axe or Ask. Where did this come from?
Axe used to be correct. When you look at the Old English or the Middle English, A-X-E or A-X-E-T-H, axeth, was once correct. Once it changed, mid-1800s or so, to ask. Many African Americans and Southerners continue to say axe. And to this day, 2007, some blacks still say axe.
How often do teachers in primary schools correct children?
Phil, great question. That's the problem. We do not have teachers that are aggressive and bold enough to correct the English of African American students. And so we have a kindergarten student, a first, a second, a third grade student who is never corrected. They become an 18-year-old senior who has never been corrected. They enter the business world and they get knocked out of a job opportunity because they've never been corrected. I'm asking for certified teachers, Phil, to start correcting children's English at a very early age.
Why don't teachers correct children more often?
Phil, they're afraid. They're afraid of parents. They're afraid of their principals. And they're basically afraid of their title as a professional educator. That's your job. I think they're also afraid to hurt the child's feelings. In Lisa Delpit's book, there's an article written by Judith Baker that talks about trilingualism. And so teachers shouldn't just say, that's bad English you're using. A teacher should say, I respect your home language, but there's also academic and employment language.
When you say teachers, you're talking about white teachers or black teachers?
I'm talking about all teachers. And I think sometimes, whether it be a white teacher, a Hispanic teacher, a black teacher, they're all to blame. They're professional educators and their job is to educate. If they do not have a problem correcting a child's math problem or social studies problem or science problem, why do they have a problem correcting a child's English?
One of the points you make in your book is that some parents get furious when a teacher corrects their child's black English. Right. What would you say to those parents?
Those parents are basically setting their children up for failure, doomed. And that's frustrating to me. You're a professional educator. When your child goes to a school, expect for that child to be corrected. That's why they're in school.
All right, let's go to a couple more of other examples that you cite in the book, including misusing the verb be.
Yes.
Tell me how it's misused and what you say to people about changing it.
I love the way people misuse the word be. You know, I be going, I be doing. It's beautiful in a loose neighborhood context. teachers need to show students how to use the be verb. The be verb has 8 forms: be, am, is, are, was, were, been, being. Once teachers show students how to use the form, they don't have any problems at all correcting it.
You also cite some words that are mispronounced. Children.
Children. When I go down south and see my relatives, they say children, children. Once again, in a relaxed, at-home context, there's nothing wrong with that. But in an employment-type environment, an academic environment, you need to enunciate children.
What's the difference between black English and just ordinary slang or poor English?
Black English basically is somewhat of a dialect coming, of course, from English, but also coming from some of the West African languages. Black English is cultural. It's similar to the music, the food that we have. It's something that we embrace. Maya Angelou, Phil, calls it the sweet language, and it's something that you should keep. But you should always remember that when you go into a mixed environment, you have to be understood.
Is there a form of discrimination against some African-American children who attempt to speak what you call mainstream English?
Most definitely. Some African-American children are beat up for speaking mainstream or standard English. Some African-American children cannot even walk to school with books in their hands because it's so-called being white. And I'm trying to fight against that. Speaking standard English or mainstream English is not being white. You know, getting good grades in school is not being white. It's about excellence, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
Has there been any backlash against this book? Have you been criticized?
Yes, I've been criticized profusely. It's been a wonderful, experience because it's waking up the consciousness of teachers, certified teachers, professors, parents, students, and for the most part, people know that I'm right.
Now, I understand that this book is being used in some school districts. What's been has there been increasing acceptance of some of the points you've been making?
Slowly but surely. It's in 26 school districts as we speak. I just spoke at Spencer Technology Academy over on the west side, had a wonderful experience there, and I've also spoke at Aquinas Academy, and it's getting accepted more and more because people are realizing that to be employed in this high-tech new millennium that we're in, you've got to be able to speak standard American English.
Yeah, but you know, one of the points that you make in the book as far as students and teachers and parents is that it actually takes a certain amount of courage to do this.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You have to have thick skin, but you have to realize that you're a professional educator. You're not someone off the street that's placed in a school to teach children. It's your responsibility. It's your birthright. And so, yes, it takes thick skin, but you know what? I went to Wabash College, and they said it won't be easy, but it will be worth it.
All right. Garrard McClendon, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it. And again, the book is called Axe or Ask, the African American Guide to Better English by Garrard McClendon.